Environmental Science, Chapter 15, Video 3, Treatment of Polluted Water. Three major ways to reduce water pollution are source reduction of waste, wastewater treatment, remediation of polluted waters. Focusing on input reduction of water includes increased efficiency, recycling, and substitution. Until recently, most water pollution control has emphasized output treatment rather than input reduction. This diagrams conventional wastewater treatment, including primary, secondary, and tertiary types of treatment. Primary treatment uses physical processes to remove materials, filtering out trash that is not biodegradable, as well as rocks and asphalt from road systems. Secondary treatment uses microbes to remove suspended solids and oxygen-demanding waste. Secondary treatment is designed to substantially degrade the biological content of the sewage, which are derived from human waste, food waste, soaps, and detergents. The majority of municipal plants treat the settled sewage liquor using aerobic biological processes. To be effective, the bacteria, or activated sludge, require both oxygen and food to live. The bacteria and the protozoa in the sludge consume biodegradable, soluble organic contaminants like sugars, fats, short-chain carbon molecules, etc., and bind much less of the soluble fractions into the flock. Generally, secondary treatment with activated sludge can remove about 10 times the organic material from wastewater, taking effluent from around 200 micrograms per liter of carbon down to 20 micrograms per liter, which is considered safe to release back into a river system. Tertiary treatment uses a variety of physical and chemical processes to perform more complex treatment. The purpose of tertiary treatment is to provide final treatment stage to further improve the effluent quality before it's discharged into the receiving environment, whether it's the sea, river, lake, wetlands, ground, etc. More than one tertiary treatment process may be used in any treatment plant. If disinfection is practiced, it is always the final process. It's also called effluent polishing. The type of treatment really depends on what is needed, but can be removal of extra nitrogen or phosphate, or even disinfection of secondary treatment does not remove all pathogens. I'm busy. Septic tanks. Septic tanks permit sewage to settle, then disperse into an absorption or leach field of soil where bacteria digest it. Septic systems act like secondary treatment in that bacteria in the tank break down human waste and form sludge at the bottom of the tank. That is, in a healthy septic system. First, lighter than organic solid material floats to the surface and forms a layer of what is commonly called scum. Bacteria in the septic tank biologically convert this material to liquid. Secondly, organic or inert solid materials and the byproducts of bacterial digestion sink to the bottom of the tank and form a layer commonly known as sludge. And thirdly, only clear water should exist between the scum and the sludge layers. It's this clear water, and only this clear water, that should overflow into the soil absorption area. In a healthy septic system, the tank will need to be pumped every 2 to 5 years. Water that is discharged into the environment is heavily regulated in order to protect the population from industrial and human waste. Several federal laws are aimed at improving water quality. The Clean Air Act and the Safe Drinking Water Act are the two major ones. The Safe Drinking Water Act sets criteria for drinking water quality. The primary standards are based on health-related criteria, and they cover inorganic chemicals, organic chemicals, radioactive matter, and pathogenic microbes. There are also laws on discharges that protect the public from non-health-related issues of water pollution, including the so-called secondary standards about taste, color, odor, corrosivity, and hardness. The US EPA sets maximum contaminant levels for a number of pollutants that public water suppliers must meet on a regular basis. If they are not met, then an explanation should be forthcoming or measures can be taken against the municipality. The table here shows the MCLs for common contaminants, MCLs for common contaminants, such as arsenic and other metals, but they also exist for organics and minerals. That said, several problems regarding water quality exist in the United States. For example, reauthorization and rising cost of compliance with existing clean water law. In recent years, issues emerging with the implementation of the law have prompted congressional interest in revising the statutes again. A key issue has involved the increase in state and local mandates without a parallel increase in federal support. A second issue has involved the ability of public water systems to meet new treatment, monitoring, and reporting requirements. Small system compliance has been a particular concern. Most serious violations of drinking water regulations have occurred in small water systems serving fewer than 3,000 people, which often have limited financial and technological resources to devote to water monitoring and treatment. Because 87 or 88% of community water systems are small, improving small system compliance capacity has been a key reauthorization issue. There's also the issues of non-point pollution. Non-point pollution occurs when rainfall, snowmelt, or irrigation runs over land and through the ground, picks up pollutants and deposits them into rivers, lakes, and coastal waters, or introduces them into groundwater. Imagine the path taken by a drop of rain from the time it hits the ground to when it reaches a river, groundwater, or the ocean. Any pollutant it picks up on the journey can become part of the non-point pollution problem. Non-point pollution also includes adverse changes to the vegetation, shape, and flow of streams and other aquatic systems. Another issue is the aging of treatment water plants. The age of water infrastructure in the U.S. is a major issue. Much of the country's water infrastructure was built in the period following World War II or earlier, although the age of infrastructure will vary with the age of your community. The Clean Water Act spurred the construction of wastewater treatment plants beginning in the 1970s, and so many of those plants are now 30 years old or older. With regard to piping systems, a major survey found that for drinking water systems that serve more than 100,000 people, about 30% of the pipes were between 40 and 80 years old, and about 10% of the pipes were more than 80 years old. The lifespan of the assets that make up our systems can vary greatly. For example, treatment plants typically have useful life of 20 to 50 years before they require an extensive rehabilitation or replacement. There's also pollution of groundwater and wetlands and marine waters that we already covered in this chapter, as well as new toxic substances. Mandated by Section 5 of the Toxic Substances Control Act, EPA's new chemicals programs help manage the potential risk to human health and the environment from chemicals new to the marketplace. That said, if a chemical does make it into the water supply, how is the water company going to know if they're there or not unless they're testing for it? And they only test for the things that they have to test for. Other problems in U.S. water control include major deficiency in most traditional approaches to water pollution and the emphasis of end-of-pipe methods, even though much of the problem is non-point source. Other problems in the U.S. include failure to address non-point pollution, obsolescence of many urban wastewater treatment facilities, increasing concern over toxic chemical pollutants, lack of comprehensive data over water quality, and increasing pollution of groundwater, marine waters, and wetlands. Many of these were mentioned on the previous slide. That said, the U.S. water is actually in better shape than many parts of the world. Water quality is very poor in places like Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union, which have huge industrial pollution problems, and in developing nations, where water is often tainted with microbial pathogens. Inadequate water supply could be exacerbated by growing population and climate change. Lack of access to clean water has the potential to cause conflicts in areas around the world. In the end of this chapter, we talked about how we can reduce water pollution in general. We also talked about how waste treatment plants and septic systems work, including the primary, secondary, and tertiary treatment of sewage. What are some of the legal solutions to regulating water discharges listed in the chapter? And we should also know what a maximum contaminant level is and who sets them. And how would you set one anyway? It's a good thing to think about. Discuss the problems regarding water quality that exist in the United States. You should be able to do all these things.